The 2023 NBA draft is in the books, and Victor Wembanyama officially has a home with the San Antonio Spurs. It was a relatively uneventful night in terms of big name trades, but there were plenty of surprise risers and fallers along the way. The biggest source of drama heading into the night was resolved when the Charlotte Hornets elected to draft Brandon Miller at number 2, which meant that dynamic guard Scoot Henderson fell to the Portland Trailblazers, who were more than happy to swoop him up. As we always do, we have our team-by-team grades, and we look at each team's entire draft as a whole. Some teams clearly drafted for need, while others used their picks to take huge swings with a massive potential return. Hello, friends, and welcome to another edition of TXN Sports World. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. And based on the intro, you know what that means. It is our annual NBA Draft Recap Edition. We have other things, but we're going to try to make time for them. So let's not waste any more time, and we're going to dive right on in to our 2023 NBA Draft grades. And we started off, you know how we do it, team by team, and we go in order. And spoiler alert, two teams did not have any picks. So we'll let you know when those come up, and we will simply bypass them. First team up is the Atlanta Hawks, and they selected Kobe Buffkin, a guard from Michigan, Mohamed Gueye, a center from Washington State via the Charlotte Hornets, and Seth Lundy, a small forward from Penn State via the New Orleans Pelicans. Jet Howard and Jordan Hawkins, working their way into the back half of the lottery, pushed down excellent value for the Hawks at number 15 in combo guard Kobe Buffkin, who should be a nice long-term bet on talent given his trajectory in recent years. Not a huge fan of the reported compensation Atlanta sent to grab Gueye at 39, a 2027 second-rounder, but both he and Lundy fell in ranges that seem reasonable selections. Simple grade here. It's a solid C for the Atlanta Hawks. So not much more to say here. I'll have Michael Fletcher come on in, and let's have your grade for the Atlanta Hawks.
I actually disagree, Anthony. Buffkin could play off the ball along with Trae Young and Devontae Murray. The Hawks would benefit from the Michigan guard with a strong defense play, especially when he shares the floor with Young. Buffkin also provides some backcourt insurance in the event that Murray leaves for free agency this summer. I give it a solid B.
All right. So with that, we move on to our next team, and that, of course, it's Michael Bullock's team. Of course, we are awaiting his presence as we always do. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we hope to have him back tomorrow night for the first of two special editions of the Cerebral Smack Talk. But first, let's talk about his team, the Boston Celtics. And they only had one selection, and it was via the Sacramento Kings at number 38. And they selected Jordan Walsh, a small forward out of Arkansas. So, MF, you're great on this alone.
Despite the wheeling and dealing and out of the draft picks all night, the Celtics finished with the only second rounder. Jordan Walsh is a great one, though. He's a versatile defender on the wing who could play some spot minutes alongside the offensive stars. B for me, Anthony.
Brad Stevens was a busy man on draft night, extracting future value by essentially turning the number 25 pick in this year's draft into Jordan Walsh and 4 future second rounders via a flurry of trades. That's good work. Walsh could have been a first rounder in 2024 had he returned to college. So while the returns may not be immediate for Boston, Stevens did a nice job of restocking the coffers for the road ahead. Solid A for me. So with that, we move on to our next team, and that is the Brooklyn Nets. And they selected Noah Clowney, power forward from Alabama via the Phoenix Suns, Dariq Whitehead, a small forward out of Duke, and Jalen Wilson, a small forward from Kansas. There was a belief leading into the draft that the Nets, with consecutive picks in the early 20s, could use one of their selections on a high upside talent if he slipped. That was indeed the case, as former 5-star prospect Dariq Whitehead, after 2 surgeries the last year to remedy lower body injuries, fell further than previously anticipated. The selection coming right after big man Noah Clowney at 21 pairs nicely for Brooklyn, giving them 2 potential difference makers at their respective positions who are still just 18 years old. Solid B for the Brooklyn Nets. MF, you're great.
Unfortunately, I disagree again. Stocked with back-to-back picks in the early 20s, the Nets took 2 young projects. Noah Clowney and W. Whitehead. Clowney, a four-star recruit who impacted an Alabama with the athleticism and the shooting in a lanky frame, while Whitehead was highly touted five-star who struggled at Duke due to injury. In a perfect world, Clowney is a versatile forward, blocking shots and making plays on the offense, while Whitehead turns into an elite three-point sniper. However, the scenarios is more hypothetical than likely. See.
All right, next team is the Charlotte Hornets, and they selected Brandon Miller with the number 2 pick, a small forward out of Alabama. Nick Smith Jr., a small guard out of Arkansas via the NBA champion Denver Nuggets. James Nnaji, a power forward from Barcelona via the Boston Celtics. And they also selected Amari Bailey, small guard from UCLA via the Oklahoma City Thunder. MF, your grade for the Charlotte Hornets.
Brandon Miller is a clean fit alongside LaMelo Ball and then Scoot Anderson. The Alabama standout shot creating skills will provide a much needed boost for the Hornets half-court offense, which was ranked 29th in the association, 92.6 per 100 possessions. Cleaning the glass, which he'll also be an asset on the defensive end with the length and switchability. Meanwhile, with the selection of Nick Smith, that gives Charlotte some backcourt depth with Dennis Smith and Kelly Oubre hitting the free agent market. The Arkansas product struggled to stay healthy during his lone season with the Razorbacks, but showed glimpses of the player who was the number 3 overall prospect in last year's recruiting class. Good draft for the Hornets. B+ for me. Anthony, it's yours.
Brandon Miller over Scoot Henderson at number 2 is not what I would have done. It feels like the Hornets drafted for fit as opposed to drafting the best player, which would have been Scoot Henderson. But that's really the only qualm I have with Charlotte's draft. Nick Smith Jr. at 27 is great value for a former number 1 recruit who fell because of a down year. And Amari Bailey at 41 is 20 spots lower than where I had him ranked. Also a huge fan of the James Nnaji pick at 31, given his length and measurables. A- is my grade for the Charlotte Hornets. Next up, the Chicago Bulls. 1 pick. It came at number 35, and they selected Julian Phillips, a small forward out of Tennessee, via the Washington Wizards. You got to hand it to Chicago's front office. They are nothing if not consistent. Trading into the early second round to draft Julian Phillips was very much on brand for this franchise, adding a super athlete who has crazy physical tools but has a long way to go towards developing into a real threat as a shooter. Pretty underwhelming. I'm sorry I got to do this, but D is the grade for the Chicago Bulls. MF, your thoughts?
Oh, no. Disagree wholeheartedly. Much like the Boston Celtics, the Chicago Bulls had just 1 second-round selection, and they made it count with Tennessee forward Jalen Phillips. An athletic freak with elite defensive skills. This could be the complete steal if Chicago can improve his jumper. B+ for the Chicago Bulls.
Okay. Next up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. 1 pick, and it came at number 49, and they selected Imani Bates, a small forward out of Eastern Michigan via the Golden State Warriors. MF, how'd you like this pick?
Imani Bates will never be an NBA caliber defender or athlete, but his pedigree as a scorer will always going to give him a chance to get drafted. Perhaps one day he'll live up to his prep school potential. C+, Florio.
You can tell yourself a nice little story about how this is a big swing for the Cavs on a major talent with some flaws. But the truth is that Bates, once regarded as the best basketball prospect in the world as a young teen, is not viewed as the same prodigious talent from years ago. You could do worse with a late second-round pick, but you could probably do better too. And guess what, MF? I actually agree with you. I also have a C+ for the grade on this, so you nailed it. Next up, the Dallas Mavericks. 2 picks, and they selected Derek Lively II, a center from Duke via the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Olivier Maxence Prosper, a forward out of Marquette via the Sacramento Kings. The Mavericks were successful on 2 fronts, shedding the burdensome contract of Davis Bertans while still securing two fitting prospects full of upside. Lively is a running, shot-blocking big in the mold of Tyson Chandler, while Prosper shot up draft boards due to his athleticism, length, and versatility on the defensive end. Both address needs, and the Mavs saved some money in the process. Well done. One of my winners of the draft. Solid A for the Dallas Mavericks. I got to step away for a moment, so MF, you take it from here. Dallas Mavericks.
All right. Though it was widely expected to be at number 10, the Mavericks was able to move back and take a primary target with Derek Lively at 12, while getting off the Davis Benson contract. Lively fits the Mavericks like a T, providing the dynamic needed rim protection and terrific roll man in the pick and roll with Luka Doncic. While Lively won't deliver much in the scoring next season, he certainly makes a major impact defensively from day one. Being able to maneuver down the board and pick a perfect fit as a solid is a move that there was on Thursday. Dallas also made another trade for a solid defender in Olivier Maxime Prosper. It was very clear where the Mavs were looking to improve in the draft. Total agreement with you, Anthony. I got an A as well. I know it's going to be my turn anyway, so I know you stepped away. So next up we had was the defending and reigning champions, the Denver Nuggets. At 29, they got Jillian Hosper from Gonzaga. Number 32, they got Jalen Pickett from Penn State. And then at 37, Hunter Tyson from Clemson. And here is my thoughts on it. The Nuggets made it evident that they were drafting to fill roles for next year's roster, as their championship core will mostly remain impacted moving forward. Jillian Strasser, Jillian Pickett, and Hunter Tyson are all veteran college players with specific strengths that will lend them to rookie roles. The issue is that none of the projects to be anything more than just bench players at their peak, which leaves this haul rather unspectacular, but solid nonetheless. A solid B for the reigning and defending NBA World Champion Denver Nuggets. Hopefully Anthony is back as I give it back to you. All right, I guess Anthony has not arrived back yet, so I don't really know if I should jump ahead and go with the next team or if I should just wait. Um, because the next team that would be on our list would be the Detroit Pistons. So I guess, with Detroit, they had Ashier Thompson from Overtime Elite. And then with number 25, they made it was with Marcus Caesar. This was via trade. Uh, he's from the University of Houston, the Houston Cougars. Um, the grade I would have given them is a B, and here's what I would say. With Cade Cunningham and with Jalen Ivey manning the backcourt, Jalen Duran is looking to be the center of the future, and the Pistons needed a wing. Got the most explosive one remaining on the board with Asir Thompson. The major issue with Thompson is his jumper, which could be an issue with the current Piston core. But his addition clearly raises the ceiling of the team that had the worst record in the league last year. However, in slightly surprising move, they gave up the 31st pick and a future capital to take Marcus Caesar, a player who probably would have been available with their original pick. And this is where I actually gave them a grade of B at the time. So, all right. Of course, with the NBA draft, there's a lot of teams that we had. Let me see. There was one, two, only two teams with no picks. Looks like two teams. Yeah, so two teams with no picks. Um, and like I said, the landscape is across the board, so we'll see. Um, just
All right, I am back in. I apologize for the longer than expected delay here. MF, where did we leave off before I had to step away?
So what I did was I actually just finished the last team that was on the list, which would have been
I talked about
the Dallas. I did the Dallas Mavericks, and I already took the liberty of doing the Denver Nuggets. So you could just finish
yeah.
off and then go right on to the next team.
All right, all right. I do apologize for that. It took a little longer than I expected, so I thought I was going to be in and out there. But all right, getting back to this, number 8. MF already took the liberty of it because he was going to be leading off on it anyway. Your brand new, reigning, defending, first time ever NBA champion Denver Nuggets. Wow, I still can't believe I'm saying that. NBA champion Denver Nuggets. I never thought I'd hear myself say that in my lifetime, but here we are. They had 3 picks. They selected Julian Strother, a forward out of Gonzaga, and Jalen Pickett, a guard of Penn State. Both of those picks were via the Indiana Pacers, and Hunter Tyson, a forward from Clemson, via the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Nuggets maneuvered themselves into a late first and a couple early second-round selections, and the theme was clear. Experienced college players who could potentially step in right away. Strother and Tyson are both excellent shooters with size, while Pickett will compete for a backup guard role. Since Denver has limited financial resources, one of the cheapest ways to fill out the rosters with draft picks, and they've taken some solid things here. Solid B. That's my grade for the Denver Nuggets. MF, what did you give for a grade on Denver while I was stepped away there?
I actually did give a B as well.
Solid B. Okay, we agree again. All right. So we move on to the next team, and here you go, MF. I'm going to do it in my best Mason voice. Detroit basketball. Yep. It is the Detroit Pistons, and they had 2 picks. Number 5, they selected Ausar Thompson, small forward from Overtime Elite, and number 25, Marcus Sasser. Marcus Sasser, yes, you remember him, the small guard from the shooting guard, rather. I can't believe I said small guard. Oh, long day for me, trust me. Shooting guard from Houston, from the University of Houston. You remember this young man who took the college basketball world by storm this past year in Houston, which was so damn good this year. That was via the Memphis Grizzlies and the Boston Celtics. No one knew exactly which direction Detroit would go here at 5 with Cam Whitmore, Jarace Walker, and Ausar Thompson all believed to be in play. So extra credit points for the front office, keeping things close to the vest. Also a kicker. I like the pick here. And the Sasser pick at 25. Thompson is a scoring wing with a big frame who can play nicely off of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. And Sasser is a potential microwave bucket off the bench who can help upgrade this team's backcourt depth. Solid B for the Detroit basketball Pistons. MF, what do you got?
And I actually gave it a B as well. I actually alluded to this and actually talked about it briefly while you were away. I kind of did jump the gun a little bit, but then I kind of was hoping that you were going to come back. So, I also agreed with it as well. I also said a B for the Detroit Pistons.
All right, MF, and you'll be leading off on our next team which is the Golden State Warriors. And they had 2 picks. They selected Brandon Podziemski, a guard from Santa Clara. And they also selected Jackson Davis, a forward from Indiana, via the Washington Wizards. So MF, Golden State, how'd they do?
It's clear that the Warriors wasn't needed looking for some home run potential at their first round pick this year with all of the top end talent that they have. But picking Podziemski as a sharpshooter and secondary playmaker off the bench makes tons of sense. Especially that was the day that they actually traded away Jordan Poole. While Podziemski lacks the size and the defenses could be concerning in the wrong situation, Golden State seemed to have landed one of the best places that they could have landed with. B- for me. Anthony, it's yours.
The Warriors lost shooting and playmaking by trading Jordan Poole, and they hope to make up some of that with Podziemski, a knockdown 3-point marksman with some wiggle and athleticism to his game. They also took a flyer on Jackson Davis in the second round. Another attempt at more athleticism and vertical spacing in their attack. Neither is a teenager, so they should, in theory, be more equipped to make an immediate impact. Solid B for the Golden State Warriors. Next team is the Houston Rockets, and they selected at number 4, Amen Thompson, a guard from Overtime Elite. And they also selected Cam Whitmore, a forward from Villanova. The Rockets added to their treasure trove of freaky athleticism by taking Amen Thompson and Whitmer, 2 of the most dynamic, explosive prospects in the class. Would you like to see a little more shooting in Houston? Sure, but they're in no position to pass on upside like this for temporary needs. Both players could end up being all-stars or better, and snagging Whitmore at number 20 could end up looking like a true steal. Solid A for the Houston Rockets, another one of my winners. MF, what do you say?
Slight disagreement, but even better. A+, winner of the draft. The addition of Amen Thompson gives the Rockets a dynamic 1-2 punch in their backcourt, with the playmaking complementing Jalen Green's scoring first mentality. He's got the tools to be a premier stopper. Thompson's jumper is the biggest question mark though in his game, but he's got a lot of potential to be the long-term answer at the point. The Rockets also scooped up an athletic specimen in Villanova freshman Cam Whitmore with their second first rounder, a former McDonald's All-American, was projected to go as high as 5, but reportedly slipped due to a combination of a poor workout and interviews. Whitmore's upside certainly outweighs the potential character concerns, especially at this stage of the draft. A plus for the Houston Rockets. Anthony, go.
Next team is the Indiana Pacers. 4 picks, and here's who they selected. At number 8, Jarace Walker, power forward from Houston via the Washington Wizards. Ben Shepherd, a shooting guard from Belmont. Mojave King, a small guard from the G League Ignite via the Los Angeles Lakers. And Isaiah Wong, a shooting guard from Miami. MF, Indiana Pacers, how'd they do?
After posting one of the worst defenses in the NBA last season, the Pacers' clearly priority was to end of the floor Thursday. Getting Walker is one of the best premier defensive players and immediately slots him into a long-term situation in the front court. The prospect of Walker in the pick and roll with Tyrese Halliburton is very exciting, though. Adding Ben Shepherd in the same mold as Andrew Nepsier last year makes sense. Shepherd is a mature player who can play defense, who knows his role along with the Bargon Stars of Indiana. A minus for the Indiana Pacers. Anthony, it's yours.
Disagreement here. I thought it was a pretty underwhelming haul on the whole, but the determining factor for how this class will be viewed obviously will come down to how Jarace Walker develops with the Pacers. At number 8, I was surprised he was still on the board and think that can be a nice fit long-term as Indy rebuilds around Tyrese Halliburton. Disagree with this one. Solid C is my grade for the Indiana Pacers. Next up, we have the 2 Los Angeles teams, and we started off with the Los Angeles Clippers. 2 picks. They selected Kobe Brown, a forward from Missouri, and Jordan Miller, a forward from Miami. The Clippers signaled their desire for immediate help by drafting 2 seniors. Both have long wingspans and profile as plus defenders on the wing that can fit into Coach Ty Lue's switching defense, and they can also step out and knock down 3-pointers. These prospects are not going to blow anyone away, but the Clippers are just looking for potential rotation pieces on a win-now team. So they should suffice. Solid C, my grade for the LA Clippers. MF, what do you say?
You're almost there. Partial disagreement. Though Kobe Brown wasn't expected to be a first rounder, he fits with the contending Clippers team that makes some sense. One of the oldest players in the draft, Brown will slot in an offensive versatile combo forward at the end of the bench. Solid but unspectacular. C plus for me. Anthony?
And we move on to the other LA team, the Los Angeles Lakers. 2 picks as well. They selected Jalen Hood Schifino, a guard from Indiana. And they also selected Maxwell Lewis, a forward from Pepperdine, via the Indiana Pacers. MF, how'd the Lakers do?
Lakers could clearly target size to complement LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Jalen Hood Schifino was one of the biggest pure point guards outside of Amen Thompson. A great versatiler who can create his own shot in the mid-range. Los Angeles would gladly take his creativity on the floor. Don't expect an all-star appearance down the line, but Hood Schifino should be a valuable addition to the tail end of LeBron James's era in Los Angeles. B for me.
Widely expected to trade their picks, instead, the Lakers wound up selecting 2 of the favorite prospects in the draft. Hood Schifino is as rock solid as combo guards come, doing a lot of things right and not much wrong. Lewis profiles as a prototypical 3-and-D wing with the creation upside for much more down the road. Who knows if the Lakers keep them, but Rob Pelinka did an excellent job with the picks he had. Solid A, another one of my winners for the Los Angeles Lakers. Next up, the Memphis Grizzlies. 2 picks. Gregory G.G. Jackson II, a forward from South Carolina, and Tariq Biberovic, a forward from Fenerbahce Biko. Memphis swung for the fences with Jackson, a top 3 recruit at a high school who had a nightmare season at South Carolina that led to questions about effort and upside. That being said, if the Grizzlies can develop him, he could be one of the better second-round talents we've seen. He's a bucket getter that doesn't turn 19 until December. So this is a project that could end up paying off big time. Biberovic will reportedly be stashed, so we'll hold off on his analysis until a later date. B+ is my grade for the Memphis Grizzlies. MF, what says you?
All right. With my thoughts. Okay. All right. Getting an unproven 18-year-old in GG Jackson, and a European draft and stash with Tomic as an unspectacular as a multi-draft pick can get. Disagreement. D+ for the Memphis Grizzlies. Anthony, it's yours.
All right. And we move on to the Eastern Conference champion, Miami Heat. 1 pick. It was at number 18, and they selected Jamie Jaquez Jr., small forward out of UCLA. MF, how do you feel about it?
There is no player in this draft that embodies the Heat culture than this pick. The UCLA standout is experienced and plays with a ton of energy on both ends of the floor. He'll fill the much-needed, bigger defensive-minded wing and should immediately slot into the club's rotation. The Heat's run to the finals wasn't overshadowed their scoring struggles during the regular season, but his shot-creating prowess and the ability to handle the rock will inject some much-needed life into the Miami's offense next year. A solid B for the Miami Heat. Anthony, it's yours.
Generally not a huge fan of taking 4-year college players this high in the draft, but I'm going to make an exception here for the Heat. Given how well Jaquez's game is and how nicely he projects onto the radar, he's a quintessential Heat player who will help this team early. I'm just about right there with you. B+ is my grade for the Miami Heat. Next up, the Milwaukee Bucks. They had 2 picks. They selected Andre Jackson Jr., a shooting guard from the national champion UConn Huskies, via the Orlando Magic. And they also selected Chris Livingston, a small forward out of Kentucky. As president, and I'll tell you what, I'm loving me some Andre Jackson Jr. I'm an enormous fan of what the Bucks got at number 36. Thought there was a chance he could sneak into the back end of round 1 because of his defense, athleticism, and do-it-all skill set as a combo guard. Well done. No strong opinion on Livingston with the last pick, but he's a developmental asset with a 5-star pedigree who could potentially blossom into something down the line. Solid B for the Milwaukee Bucks. MF, your thoughts?
Agreement. Jackson is one of the draft's most ready second rounders, which is a nice addition for a contending Bucks team. There's no reason the athletic playmaker couldn't make an impact in the 2023-2024 team. B for me. Anthony, next team.
Next team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. 2 picks. They selected Leonard Miller, a forward and guard. Actually, I'm sorry. He's a forward from G League Ignite via the San Antonio Spurs, and also selected Jalen Clark, a guard from UCLA. MF, how did the T-Wolves do?
Many tabbed Leonard Miller as a first-round draft pick, so the Timberwolves taking him at second as a potential Naz Reid replacement is an exciting development. Miller truly has turned his game up in the latter stages of the G League season, and that should carry him over the NBA and should receive some very valuable minutes on the squad. A B+ for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
The Wolves traded up to get Miller, who was considered a borderline lottery talent on most draft boards. He's a double-double machine who has showcased intriguing ball handling and playmaking skills in a 6'9 frame with a 7'2 wingspan, but is a non-shooter at this point. Clark is an elite perimeter defender with size, but he's a long way from being an offensive contributor. Solid B is my grade for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Next up, the New Orleans Pelicans. One pick, and it came at number 14, and they selected Jordan Hawkins, a guard from the national champion UConn Huskies. New Orleans only had one pick in the draft, but it was an absolute home run. Hawkins is a shooter in the mold of J.J. Redick, able to navigate off screens and get three-pointers off in the blink of an eye. He also has the frame to be a stout perimeter defender as he adds strength and agility. Hawkins is the perfect piece to put around the Pelicans stars, and he should be able to help right away. Another one of my winners, solid A for the New Orleans Pelicans. MF, what says you?
Slight disagreement, but you are on the right track. Arguably the most talented roster in the lottery, with the hopeful return of Zion Williamson to boot, the Pelicans could draft the need and choose for the best pure shooter remaining on the board, which was Hawkins. Alongside the talented scorers of Williamson, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram, Hawkins will simply be spaced the floor offensively. While he is not overly dynamic, he won't be asked to have the ball in his hands very often. This is actually a very safe pick and a very effective pick for the New Orleans Pelicans. It's a B+ for me, Anthony, so it's back to you.
Remember I said there were two teams who didn't make any picks at all? Well, here's the first of them. The New York Knicks, they did not have any selections in the NBA draft, so automatic NA. So New York Knicks, we move on to the next team, which is the Oklahoma City Thunder. Two picks, and they selected Cason Wallace, a guard from Kentucky, and Keontae Johnson, a forward from Kansas State. MF, Oklahoma City Thunder, how'd they do?
They did pretty good. With Wallace gives the Thunder another tough perimeter stopper. Pair him with Damont, the Kentucky product that was smoldering on-ball defender and could guard anybody up and down the line. He finished fourth in the SEC last year with 64 steals. Wallace is his flexibility to play on and off the ball will allow him to deploy alongside SAG or SGA and Josh Giddey. He's not a natural playmaker, but he's more than capable to sub in at point that could get Giddey and Sean Gilgeous-Alexander some much needed rest if they need it. B+ for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Anthony, it's yours.
OKC's front office is never afraid to package picks to move up when it sees a player they like. And they found their man this year in Cason Wallace, a hard defending, playmaking point guard who should be able to play alongside Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and or Josh Giddey. This may have been a bit high for Wallace, but if that's the player they wanted, they certainly had the assets to use. Keontae Johnson is an efficient scorer, but turned the ball over at a high clip in college and is not known as a lockdown defender. I'm right there with you. Solid B is my grade for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Next up, the Orlando Magic. Two picks, and they selected Anthony Black with the number 6 pick. Anthony Black, a point guard out of Arkansas. And at number 11, they selected Jet Howard, a small forward from Michigan, via the Chicago Bulls. It feels like the Magic reached a bit at number 11 to grab Jet Howard, but I like what this team did on the whole with their two picks. The addition of Anthony Black gives them a connector type who can create and play make, and Howard gives this team some much-needed shooting punch that should help space the floor around Black, Paolo Banchero, and Franz Wagner. B+ is my grade for the Orlando Magic. MF, what says you?
Orlando got some much-needed backcourt size with Black. At the 6'7", the Arkansas product can effectively defend at the point of attack and provide some playmaking. That'll be another versatile wrinkle to the Magic squad, who finished 26th in offensive efficiency. Howard should be more of a help on the team to put up more points, specifically as an outside threat. He made just under 37% of his three-pointers as a freshman and will likely help them upon their 24th ranked effective rate from downtown. Actually, I disagree, Anthony. This was an A minus for me for the Orlando Magic.
Slight disagreement, not bad. And we move on to the other team that did not make a selection in the NBA draft, and that was the Philadelphia 76ers. They didn't make any picks either. So, you know what the rule is? An A, automatic. So we move on to the next team, and that is the Phoenix Suns. And they had one pick, and they selected at number 52, Tumani Kamara, a forward from Dayton. MF, you're great for Phoenix on this.
Uh, the Suns desperately needed bench players next season as their starting lineup. So the Belgian-born Kamara will see minutes from day one. He could make an impact. He could make an impact with his rebounding and athleticism, but it wasn't the best pick. They could have gone better. I can only give this a C plus. There's nothing more. Anthony, it's yours.
At 6'7" with a 7-foot wingspan, Kamara profiles as a versatile four-man capable of occasionally stretching the floor to three-point range. The Suns need rotation players, particularly ones who can defend, and they hope Kamara can develop into that sooner rather than later. MF, I agree with you. C plus. That's also my grade for the Phoenix Suns. Next up, the Portland Trail Blazers, and they selected at number 3, Scoot Henderson, the guard from G League Ignite. They also selected Chris Murray, a forward from Iowa, and Rayon Rupert, a forward from the NZ Breakers. This would have been an A plus. I mean, I'm already spoiling my grade. This is an A plus, and it would have been simply for getting Henderson, perhaps one of two players in this draft capable of becoming a transcendent star. But the Blazers also made shrewd moves with Murray, a plug-and-play wing ready to contribute immediately, and Rupert, once considered a lottery talent, who they were able to nab at number 43. Whether these players are the future of the franchise or fodder for a potential trade, it's a win for Portland. Another one of my winners, A plus for the Portland Trail Blazers. MF, your thoughts?
Slight disagreement, but not that bad. It's an A minus. What on earth happened next with the Trailblazers? The Hornets taking Miller at 2, and the presumptive second best player, Scoot Henderson, falls right in their lap. However, Blazers star Damian Lillard has not made it clear he doesn't want to be part of a young team of another young team, and the rookie at the same position as the star doesn't seem to add up. It seems like Portland will either trade Lillard or start over Henderson or deal Henderson for a key veteran pieces. However, the Blazers had a very excellent option running the point next season with a rare luxury in today's NBA. Taking Iowa's Chris Murray with their second selection does fill the box of Lillard's desire for older players, and he was the oldest remaining projected first rounder, by the way. So it's an A minus for the Portland Trailblazers. Anthony.
All right, MF, and we move on to the next team, and that is the Sacramento Kings. 2 picks, they selected Colby Jones, a forward from Xavier, via the Boston Celtics, and Jalen Slauson, a forward from Furman. MF, your thoughts on Sacramento?
Kobe Jones and Jalen Slauson are 2 versatile forwards who can play countless different roles for the Kings. While neither may become fixtures in the lineup on the get-go, there's certainly some potential for one of them to have to be a promising player down the line. It's all right. It's a B minus for me. So Anthony, it's yours.
The Kings did well in the second round to get Jones, a Swiss Army knife wing guard combo who can do a little bit of everything at a high level. He makes quick decisions. He makes quick decisions and should fit well into Coach Mike Brown's prolific offense while bringing defensive help as well. Slauson is a point forward akin to Scotty Barnes, light, or Kyle Anderson, whose playmaking and IQ are his main assets. A minus is actually my grade for the Sacramento Kings. And we move on to the San Antonio Spurs, who had the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and as expected, they selected exactly who we thought they would. Victor Wembanyama, the center from Metropolitans 92. They had another pick at number 44, and they selected City Sissoko, a forward from G League Ignite. All the Spurs had to do was not screw it up, and they certainly did not. Wembanyama could be the prize of a generation, and he'll begin his NBA journey with coach Greg Popovich in San Antonio. On top of that, the Spurs took another Frenchman in Sissoko, once considered a first-round talent who profiles as a versatile lockdown defender. For me, this was my winner of the NBA draft, the San Antonio Spurs. A+ for the San Antonio Spurs. MF.
Agreed. And even the grade as well. A+, like you said, Victor Wembanyama was the prized possession. He is a generational player. The last time we've had a big like this, when that has that much potential, you got to go all the way back to Yao Ming when he got drafted at number 1 to the Houston Rockets. And I'm talking centers. That's why I'm saying that. For a guy with that much hype, that much expectations, with that much excitement that he got for San Antonio, and we knew months ago that Wembanyama was going to be number 1 overall. We just didn't know what team was going to get him. To land at San Antonio with Greg Popovich, who is notorious for drafting incredible international players. And that's the main thing. Because of their international players, and with the way the tutelage and the leadership that he has, this was a no-brainer. A+, home run, winners of the draft was San Antonio. Like you said, they just had to make the right decision. Don't make any mistakes. They did it. They knew they had the pick of the litter. They knew who it was there, and they knew even when they won the draft lottery that they were going to get him. And even he was excited to go to San Antonio. Sometimes there's certain players, when you're projected at number 1, you're like, I don't know if I want to go to this place. Victor Wembanyama was excited to know that he was going to be going off to San Antonio. Why? Because of Tony Parker. Tony Parker is considered a legend in France. He's an icon in France. And because of the way that he played and because of his success with the San Antonio Spurs, let me tell you, France loves San Antonio. So for Victor Wembanyama to go there, it's a perfect marriage. Perfect marriage. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, next team is the Toronto Raptors, and they had only 1 pick. They came at number 13, Grady Dick, a small forward from Kansas. MF, your thoughts?
Not only a good pick, but the most fashionable person of the NBA draft. Did you see the outfit he had on draft night?
Oh,
he was blowing up social media, and everybody was going nuts over his.
Did he take that outfit out of Pretty Deadly's closet or Seth Rollins' closet?
She must have, because
yes, boy.
Because yeah, man. Yes, indeed. Yeah. He could probably be the 3rd member of Pretty Deadly. Like that's how he was looking. I don't know about Seth Rollins, but he definitely looked like the 3rd member of Pretty Deadly. But anyway, A- for me. Look, they addressed a definite need, which was outside shooting, and he actually will fit that mold. He shot 40.3% in their 6 attempts from deep, and he also scored 83 3-pointers in the Big 12, which actually he led the Big 12 in 3-point shooting last year. So he's also very good, very knowledgeable, and actually is very good creating turnovers. He averaged almost 2 steals per game, and his defensive win shares was 2.1, which was actually that made the 7th best player in the conference in the Big 12. It's an A- for me. So Anthony, it's yours.
Nobody expected Jet Howard to be drafted over Grady Dick on anybody's draft bingo card, but the unexpected slip, albeit only a few spots, is Toronto's gain. He gives them a long wing who can play well in transition and be an electric, versatile shot maker. Solid A is my grade for the Toronto Raptors. Next up, the Utah Jazz. 3 picks. They selected Taylor Hendricks at number 9, a forward out of Central Florida, Keontae George, a guard from Baylor, and Bryce Sensabaugh, a forward from Ohio State. Utah made the most of its 3 first-round picks, gathering shooting, playmaking, and defense with 3 very different players. My affinity for Hendricks is well documented at this point, as I consider him a top 5 talent in this draft with his combination of rim protection, defensive versatility, and 3-point shooting. George is an excellent scorer with playmaking upside, while Sensabaugh is an elite knockdown shooter. The Jazz picked up 3 more solid assets for their rapid rebuild. Solid A for the Utah Jazz. MF, what says you?
No. I'm about to get a little harsh here. But look, with belonging with the bargain offensive star in the front court of Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz chose to complement him with Hendricks. The floor spacing, rebounding, rim protecting that Hendricks will provide will be a different look to Markkanen. It also clouded up. It also clouds up the roster with a defensive star like Walker Kessler emerging down low. While the depth is nice, having 3 of promising guys take up 2 positions seems a bit of a confusing choice. From there, the Jazz took George at 16, a scorer but flawed one who struggles with efficient athleticism and defense. Maybe the heir apparent to Jordan Clarkson. Bryce, then at 28, a player provides a scoring but has evident flaws on the defensive end. This was reaches all over the place. I'm sorry, I disagree. D plus for the Utah Jazz. Florio, go.
And we're on the final team, and that is the Washington Wizards. 2 picks. They selected at number 7, Bilal Coulibaly, small forward from Mets 92 via the Indiana Pacers, and Tristan Vukcevic, a center from Serbia via the Chicago Bulls. And that final team, the Washington Wizards, what do you say?
In the draft's first stunner, the Wizards bounced the Pacers in the draft order and took a rising Frenchman, Bilal. Has not seen a draft pick 6 months ago, but a prototypical size, shooting, and athleticism that makes him the ideal development piece of a now rebuilding Wizard squad. There's a little chance that he'll be the 7th best rookie next season, as his draft slot indicates, but we could be looking at it 5 years back and seeing him as one of the top tier guys in this draft. They did all right. C, and Anthony, you got the final say.
Washington is hitting the reset button hard after shipping out Bradley Beal, and I like the early signs of the direction of things for the Wizards. They took a huge swing at number 7 to grab Bilal Coulibaly in a major stunner, and it feels like the exact right long-term home run swing that could pay huge dividends if things break right. A- is my grade for the Washington Wizards. So that concludes the NBA draft recap portion of our show here tonight. A late addition to the docket, because last night we saw something in Major League Baseball that hasn't been seen in nearly 11 years. A perfect game took place last night, and go figure, it was a New York Yankee who tossed that perfect game. Domingo Germán threw a perfect game last night in Oakland, shutting out the Oakland A's 11-0. And what else is there to say? I mean, it's been a dismal season for this team. And Domingo Germán was not alone when he took the mound at the Coliseum last night. His beloved uncle, who passed away 2 days prior, was there with him in spirit. It had been an emotional couple of days for Herman and his family, but the support he received from his teammates helped carry him through. With his late uncle with him every step of the way, German tossed Major League Baseball's first perfect game since 2012 in the Yankees' 11-0 win over the Oakland A's. It was the fourth perfect game in franchise history and the first since David Cohn's dominant performance against the Montreal Expos on July 18, 1999. It was the 24th perfect game in MLB history and the first since the Seattle Mariners' Felix Hernandez tossed one on August 15, 2012 against the Rays in Seattle. Herman has had a complicated tenure with the Yankees. He was a key contributor early in his career, particularly in 2019 when he went 18-4 with a 4.03 ERA in 27 games, 24 starts. But he missed the final 9 regular season games that year when he was placed on administrative leave. Eventually, German accepted an 81-game suspension from MLB for violating the joint MLB-MLBPA domestic violence policy. Since then, he has struggled to get consistent results. He received an automatic 10-game suspension after failing a sticky substance check earlier this season, and he entered last night with the potential to make the wrong kind of history by becoming just the 5th pitcher in franchise history to allow 7+ runs in 3 straight games. Instead, German snapped a streak of another kind with his historic night. The A's had not been no-hit since July 13, 1991 in a combined effort by 4 Baltimore Oriole pitchers, which was the longest active streak in the majors. The last time an opposing pitcher was perfect against the A's, you go all the way back to May 5th of 1904 when Cy Young and the Boston Americans went 27 up, 27 down against then Philadelphia Athletics. It was the Yankees' 4th perfect game, breaking a tie at 3 with the Chicago White Sox for the most of any team. German joins David Cohn and then David Wells on May 17th of 1998 versus Minnesota, and Don Larson October the 8th of 1956 in Game 5 of that year's World Series versus the Brooklyn Dodgers as Yankee pitchers to throw perfect games. An unbelievable story, and you know it's been an otherwise average, and it's been an average, disappointing season for the New York Yankees, who had so much potential and so much upside coming off of last year. You know, where Aaron Judge was breaking records and running away with that American League MVP award. Unfortunately, his injury has been a major downfall for the Yanks, and who knows when or even if he'll be back this season. I'm praying that he will be, but this will easily be, even if the Yankees don't make the postseason or do anything, this will easily be the highlight, unless somehow, some way they make the playoffs and actually win the thing. But we don't see. I honestly don't see that happening right now, unless they surprise us. But an unbelievable moment, to say the very least. So not much more for me to say on this. MF, Domingo Germán of the New York Yankees, perfect game last night in Oakland. First one in nearly 11 years. What a story.
Yeah, it was incredible. Look, he did it he what we normally talk about, and Anthony, you normally go more professor mode on this one than I do. But I know you were, the one thing that you were talking about was the off-speed stuff, the curveball, the changeup. Yeah. He was having it. It was absolutely a masterful performance. The defense didn't really have to do much. There was like one moment where there was a sharp ground ball in the first base side, great diving stop that got a big out. That was, I think, in the 5th inning. But other than that, relatively speaking, there was really no major threats throughout the night, and it was unbelievable how this played out. Domingo Germán is now legendary. He now goes in the annals of baseball history as the 24th perfect game in baseball history, the 4th for the New York Yankees, as you know. And we know the 4. Everybody talks about John Lauriston, the World Series game. I think it was 1956. Yep. And then we witnessed the other 3. We witnessed David Wells. We know David Cohn. And now this one. So because we were alive, we were watching it. We saw this as it happened. Obviously, the Wells one is kind of a little sentimental moment for myself and for Anthony Florio. Now I'm not the biggest Yankee fan, but I know Anthony and we were always talking about this, about that moment, about that perfect game, and then we were talking about the David Cone. So I know those two really sticks out for Anthony more than any others. And now this one. So I mean, yes, it was incredible. The last time we had a perfect game before then, you had to go to King Felix Hernandez from Seattle, where he did that at Safeco Field, getting the perfect game. So yeah, it's been a long time coming, over a decade, and hey, congratulations to Diego Herman for pulling it off and getting the perfect game. So well done, Anthony. It's yours.
Yeah, yes, indeed, and yes, and that '98 one especially, because we all know until we see a team do better, the '98 Yankees will forever be the greatest team of all time. So, but anyways, with that being said, MF, come on in front and center if you've got everything ready to go. It's time for your latest Big Three report. We kicked it off last weekend, and we're now in full swing for another summer of Big Three basketball.
Yes, indeed, and we started it out with quite a bang, coming from Chicago at the Madhouse on Madison, the UC as we would like to call it, as the game was live from the United Center, and here we go. So Big Three, like we said. Let me just set it up. Sorry, guys. Let's see if I got it. Yes, Big Three. Change the game. All right, here we go. So, the Big Three, as you know, what they call the Summer of Fire is their name, and let's get going. So, we started off the season with the reigning and defending champion Trilogy. They went up. Let's see. Hold on. Let me see if I can get the scores. There we go. I got it. So, week one. Here we go. So, we started it off with the reigning and defending champions Trilogy. They went up against the enemies, and it was Trilogy winning the game by the final score of 52-46. And when it was all said and done, it was Earl Clark leading Trilogy, 25 points, 11 rebounds. Isaiah Briscoe had 21 points in a winning effort. For the enemies, Jordan Crawford and Elijah Stewart were the big differences in that game as well. So Trilogy starting the season off at 1-0. Also, we had I gotta consider this an upset, Anthony, because we even talked about it when we were hanging out. You got to see a little bit of this game. I had it on my thank you to CBS and their app and the whole 9 yards. But what we had was Bivouac knocking off Triplets. Yeah, 51-47 ended up being the game of the day. So Bivouac stunning the Triplets, winning the game. And in that game, Jell Green had 18 points. Jaron Green had 17 points. But the big star was Joe Johnson, ISO Joe, 29 points in the game. But it wasn't enough, as Bivouac stunned the Big Three world with a big win. Then in the third game, we had was Power versus Three-Headed Monsters. The Power winning the game 50-43. In this game, this was all. Hold on. What happened here? Wrong thing. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. All right. So, of course, Glenn Rice Jr., Arkeil Mitchell, and Cantino Mobley led the scorers. Glenn Rice Jr. with 14 points. Mitchell had 12 points, and Contino Mowgli had 10 points. For the high man was Kevin Murphy for the three-headed monsters with 18 points in the game. Then the next game that we had as we got into this was the Ball Hogs as they knocked off the Aliens. 50 to 30, 50 to 39 was the final score in that one, and the Ball Hogs absolutely was led by Jody Meeks with 23 points. Leandro Barboza had 16 points. Jonas Tapa and Davian Blatch were the high men for the Aliens at 14 and 13 points respectively. Then the next game on this docket, the next game on the docket was the Ghost Ballers versus Three's Company. Ghost Ballers knocking off Three's Company. Sorry, Anthony. 50 to 47 was the final score. Ghost Ballers finished the game on a 9-2 run. Three's Company was ahead. They were well on their way to winning, but then a 9-2 run out of nowhere. Ghost Ballers left Three's Company in the dust, and Three's Company suffers the defeat. Michael Taylor had 19 points in the win. Jonathan Simmons had 16 points. Michael Beasley was the high man for the Ghost. Was the high man for Three's Company with 21 points. And then the final game of Big Three Week 1, as it was Tri-State, they knocked off the Killer Threes by the final score of 50 to 44. Jason Richardson had 19 points. Devin Ebanks had 17 points. And Justin Detman had 12 points. Of course, for Killer Threes, Ramon Sessions, 17 points, and Delonte Green had 10 points. That is for week 1. All right, week 2 action. Let's start it off, guys. Starts off at 1 o'clock on Saturday, as it will be Triplets versus Trilogy. And then also, we're going to have Tri-State versus Power. Those games will be on CBS and Paramount Plus. After that, all remaining games will be on Big3.tv. That's tv.big3.com. And these are the following games: Enemy versus Ball Hogs, Killer Threes versus Three's Company, Aliens and Ghost Ballers, Bivouac versus the Three-Headed Monsters, and all the games will be held from the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. So they always say everything is big in Texas. The Big Three is going to be bringing the fire on Saturday. So you'll get the recap next week. Anthony Florio, it's back to you.
And our final order of business this evening, the USFL Championship game. After an exciting weekend of semifinal action, the 2023 USFL Championship is set to kick off on Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern over on NBC at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium in Canton, Ohio, as the Pittsburgh Maulers will try to dethrone defending champion Birmingham Stallions. The Maulers kept their dream season alive last weekend, but first, let me address the elephant in the room here. The Birmingham Stallions are opening up as 6.5-point favorites. And on the call for that game, it'll be Jack Collinsworth, Jason Garrett, and Zora Stevenson. So a 6.5-point spread for the champs. So let's get into it now. The Maulers kept their dream season alive last weekend, defeating the Michigan Panthers 31-27 in overtime, as both teams left everything they had on the field. Head coach Ray Horton, who replaced Kirby Wilson in the offseason, saw his team go from worst to first in the North en route to the championship game. The Maulers don't have the best offense in the league, but they found stability at quarterback with Troy Williams, who is a threat to run the ball and can hurt teams with his arm as well. When the offense struggles to score points, the Maulers can lean on the defense, which has been the best in the USFL this season. Defensive coordinator Jaron Horton has a stellar front seven that doesn't give up a ton of yards on the ground, and a secondary that can create turnovers. In their win last weekend over the Panthers, the Maulers produced 3 takeaways. That being said, Saturday night's championship game will be Pittsburgh's greatest test, as the Birmingham Stallions have proven all season long that they're the team to beat in the USFL. Birmingham crushed New Orleans 47-22 in the South Division title game last Sunday, behind another excellent performance from their quarterback, Alex McGuff. The second-year signal caller completed 21 of 31 passes for 310 yards and 4 touchdowns. McGuff also had 84 yards on the ground and a score. The Stallions will need another MVP-level performance from McGuff on Saturday night against Pittsburgh's stingy defense. When these two teams played each other in Week 4, the Maulers gave the Stallions a scare, taking a 20-17 lead midway through in the fourth quarter after quarterback Troy Williams took off for a 34-yard rushing touchdown. However, Pittsburgh's lead did not last long, as Stallions wide receiver Deion Kane recorded a 91-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, ultimately giving Birmingham a 24-20 win. Despite the loss, the Maulers made life hard for McGuff, who completed just 58.6% of his passes for 157 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Pittsburgh also held him to 48 yards and a rushing touchdown. Meanwhile, Williams completed 63.6% of his passes for 217 yards and rushed for another 63 yards and a score. If Williams can have a similar performance Saturday, he will give his team a good shot at winning. However, Williams will not be able to do it alone, as this offense needs everybody to do their part. In their Week 4 loss, Pittsburgh went 0-3 in the red zone, which cannot happen against the Stallions team, averaging almost 32 points a game in its last 6 games. Williams will need wide receivers Isaiah Henney and Ishmael Hyman to be the top targets. Henney led the Maulers with 6 receptions for 83 yards in last week's win, while Hyman was the recipient of Williams' only touchdown pass. Pittsburgh also cannot be content with taking field goals this weekend because the Stallions can put up points in a flurry. Birmingham is coming into this game on a 6-game winning streak after trashing the Breakers. The Stallions will not score 40-plus points against the Maulers' defense, which was ranked second in points a game allowed during the regular season at 17.2 and led the USFL in turnover margin +8. So McGuff will have to be extra careful against an aggressive front seven and solid secondary. For the Stallions to win on Saturday night, they will need their running game to step up again. In their win over the Breakers last weekend, Birmingham had 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ricky Person Jr., who was called up from the IFL earlier this season, led the Stallions with 84 yards on 10 carries. If the running game can take the heat off of McGuff, it will make a noticeable difference. We believe Saturday's championship game will be a great battle between an explosive offense and a stout defense, making us, I think it might lean toward the under at 45.5. This season, the Maulers have been one of the best teams involving the under and played a huge part in the under hitting in almost 54% of games in the USFL. Pittsburgh likely covers the spread as its defense will keep Birmingham at bay, but the Stallions will make those game-winning plays in the fourth quarter to walk away with their second straight title. So, I will say this, though. Since I believe the title game will be tightly contested, look at the Maulers plus 3.5 in the first half. In the Stallions' last 5 games, they're outscoring opponents by 4.2 points a game. Pittsburgh has the defense to keep it close in the first half. And if Williams plays mistake-free football, they can cover the small spread. But nonetheless, MF, I think you're going to learn what I'm about to say. The winners and still the USFL champions, the Birmingham Stallions, I believe they will repeat as champions. 24-18, the Birmingham Stallions hold off a very game Pittsburgh Mauler team to win their second consecutive USFL championship. So with that, MF, Pittsburgh Maulers, Birmingham Stallions, USFL championship game. A year ago, you got to celebrate a championship. How do you feel? What are the chances that you get to celebrate again?
Whenever you go into a championship game and you notice, Anthony, you get the butterflies in the stomach. You get a little antsy. You know, you kind of are excited because you never know what's going to happen. This is kind of one of those type of moments for me. Being back in the final, to know that my team, Birmingham, is back in the final again, second year in a row. I'm excited. I feel like this team is better than what they were last year, and I kind of feel like this is their moment, man. This is their time. I know a lot of people are saying that last year's team was probably better, and look, like we said, there was that bend not break mentality where there was a few games where it kind of could have gone different ways, but I think now more than ever, I'm excited for what could happen next. So for me, I do believe they will get the job done. I got Birmingham winning the championship. 24-14 is my final score. So, Anthony, let's close it.
And that will put the ball on this edition of TXN Sports World. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. Tomorrow night, for at least a week only, we're bringing back the Friday night edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, as this is a special two-part edition. Part 1, tomorrow night, 10:30, over on MF's channel, Brace Fan 95. We're not doing AEW Rampage. It's going to be all about Friday Night SmackDown, and we will also preview the WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view. Saturday night, also at 10:30, over on MF channel, Brace Fan 95. The part 2 of the Cerebral Smack Talk, the Saturday night edition, as we will have our review of Money in the Bank, and we will also review AEW Collision. And then Monday night, we do it all again, Ridiculously Raw. The fallout from the Raw side of things from Money in the Bank, as we will officially start the road to the biggest party of the summer, SummerSlam. Wow, already, unbelievable. And then my Tony's Take, Impact Wrestling, and NXT Level Up, as always. And then Wednesday Night Madness, hosted by MF, as we will have NXT and AEW Dynamite, as always. And then from there, we will also be... and then Thursday night next week, another edition of TXN Sports World. The NHL awards were handed out. We will discuss the winners. The NHL schedule also came out. We'll go over that as well. MF will have his latest Big 3 report. He'll recap week 2 and get ready for week 3. And then from there, we will have our recap of the USFL Championship game. So, we'll start it with the USFL Championship, and then we'll get into the NHL awards, the NHL schedule. No. You know what? Let's just do the NHL awards first, then the NHL schedule release, and then MF's Big 3 report, and then the USFL Championship our recap of that will main event it. So that's next week, and then we go from there. So that's it. So until tomorrow night, for the first of our two-part edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, over on MF channel, Brace Fan 95, it's Anthony Floyo here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock. And as always, and forever, our First Lady, Dee Dee Woodson. Yield the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah, throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed Friday. And until tomorrow night, for our special Friday edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, you've been watching TXN Sports World right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Floyo. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye.